From its beginnings at the founding of the nation of Switzerland to its alleged role as a financial haven for unscrupulous world actors, Credit Suisse has cemented itself as one of the premier world banks. Join me as we explore what makes this bank so fascinating and the scandals and intrigues that have shaped its history. Credit Suisse was founded in 1856 in Zurich, Switzerland, by a group of prominent businessmen and politicians. At the time, Switzerland was a relatively new country, and the founders of Credit Suisse saw an opportunity to create a national bank that would help facilitate economic growth and development. The bank's initial focus was on providing loans to Swiss companies and financing infrastructure projects such as railroads and bridges. However, Credit Suisse's first few decades were marked by economic instability and political upheaval. In the late 19th century, Switzerland experienced a series of economic crises, including a major banking crisis in 1891. During this time, Credit Suisse struggled to stay afloat and was forced to merge with several other Swiss banks to survive. Despite these early challenges, Credit Suisse emerged as one of the leading banks in Switzerland in the early 20th century. The bank's success was due in part to its expansion into international markets. In the 1920s and 1930s, Credit Suisse opened branches in major financial centers around the world, including New York, London, and Paris. This global expansion allowed the bank to tap into new sources of capital and to finance large international projects. During World War II, Switzerland maintained a policy of neutrality, which allowed the country to avoid direct involvement in the conflict. However, this neutrality also meant that Switzerland had to maintain economic ties with both the Allies and the Axis powers. Credit Suisse, like other Swiss banks, played a critical role in facilitating trade between Switzerland and the rest of the world during the war. The bank provided financing to Swiss companies that were exporting goods to Germany and other Axis powers. Credit Suisse also helped to manage assets for wealthy individuals and institutions in Europe, including some who were sympathetic to the Nazi regime. While this cooperation with the Axis powers was not illegal at the time, after the war, Credit Suisse faced criticism for its role in aiding the Nazi regime. Critics accused the bank of profiting from the war and of turning a blind eye to the human rights abuses committed by the Nazis. Some even alleged that Credit Suisse had helped to launder money for the Nazis. In the aftermath of the war, the Swiss government established a commission to investigate the role of Swiss banks during the war. The commission found that while Swiss banks had not violated any laws, they had shown a lack of moral judgment and had failed to take steps to prevent their services from being used to aid the Nazi regime. As a result of the Commission's findings, Swiss banks, including Credit Suisse, were forced to pay reparations to Holocaust survivors and their families. Credit Suisse paid more than $250 million in restitution to Holocaust survivors and their heirs. The controversy over Credit Suisse's role in aiding the Nazi regime continues to this day. While the bank has apologized for its actions during the war, some critics argue that the bank has not done enough to acknowledge its complicity in the atrocities committed by the Nazis. Others point out that Credit Suisse was not the only Swiss bank to cooperate with the Axis powers, and that the bank's actions were consistent with the policies of the Swiss government at the time. Despite these controversies, Credit Suisse continued to expand its business in the post-war period. In the 1950s and 1960s, the bank became increasingly involved in investment banking, advising clients on mergers and acquisitions, underwriting securities, and providing other financial services. This shift in focus helped to position Credit Suisse as a major player in the global financial industry. In the 1990s and 2000s, Credit Suisse continued to expand its business through a series of mergers and acquisitions. In 1997, the bank merged with Swiss Volksbank, creating Credit Suisse Group. In 2000, Credit Suisse acquired the investment bank Donaldson, Lufkin, and Genret, expanding its presence in the United States. And in 2009, Credit Suisse acquired a majority stake in the Brazilian investment bank Hedging Grifo, further expanding its reach into emerging markets. In the early 2000s, Credit Suisse, like many other banks, began to focus on the mortgage-backed securities market, which involved packaging individual home loans into complex financial instruments that could be sold to investors. These securities were considered safe investments as they were backed by real estate assets. However, in reality, many of the underlying loans were subprime, meaning they were made to borrowers with poor credit histories who were unlikely to be able to repay the loans. In 2008, the subprime mortgage market collapsed, triggering a global financial crisis. Credit Suisse, like many other banks, had invested heavily in mortgage-backed securities, and the bank suffered significant losses as a result of the crisis. The bank was forced to write down billions of dollars in losses and faced criticism for its role in promoting risky financial products. In the aftermath of the crisis, Credit Suisse was forced to undergo a major restructuring. The bank sold off many of its riskier assets and shifted its focus toward wealth management and other, less risky business lines. Credit Suisse also faced legal challenges related to its role in the crisis. In 2016, the bank agreed to pay $5.3 billion in a settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice over its sale of mortgage-backed securities in the lead-up to the crisis. The subprime mortgage crisis and its aftermath were a major blow to Credit Suisse's reputation, and the bank has faced criticism for its role in the crisis. Critics argue that the bank, like many others, was motivated by short-term profits and failed to properly assess the risks associated with mortgage-backed securities. However, others point out that the crisis was the result of a complex set of factors, including lax regulation and a broader economic downturn. Despite the controversy surrounding its role in the subprime mortgage crisis, Credit Suisse has continued to be a major player in the global financial industry. The bank has undergone significant changes in recent years, including a renewed focus on wealth management and digital technology. Credit Suisse has also implemented new risk management practices and taken steps to improve its regulatory compliance. More recently, Credit Suisse has faced a number of scandals related to its business practices. In 2014, the bank pleaded guilty to helping U.S. clients evade taxes and was forced to pay a $2.6 billion fine. In 2016, Credit Suisse was implicated in the 1MDB scandal, in which the Malaysian government was defrauded of billions of dollars. The bank was fined $2.6 billion, and several of its executives were charged with corruption and money laundering. Despite these controversies, Credit Suisse remains one of the most influential banks in the world today. The bank has continued to expand its business and to adapt to changing market conditions. In recent years, Credit Suisse has shifted its focus away from investment banking and toward wealth management and asset management. The bank has also invested heavily in digital technology, launching new mobile and online banking platforms and partnering with fintech startups to offer new financial products and services. Today, Credit Suisse has a global network of offices and branches serving clients in more than 50 countries around the world. The bank employs more than 48,000 people and manages assets worth more than $1.6 trillion. While Credit Suisse's corporate story is marked by both success and controversy, there is no denying the bank's enduring influence on the global financial industry. From its humble beginnings as a small Swiss bank to its current status as a global powerhouse, Credit Suisse has played a key role in shaping the world of finance. Whether you view Credit Suisse as a symbol of financial innovation and success, or as a cautionary tale of the risks and challenges of modern finance, there is no denying the impact that this bank has had on the world. And with new challenges and opportunities emerging every day, it seems likely that Credit Suisse will continue to shape the financial landscape for years to come.